Is your practice declining in value? Welcome to the KC CHIROpulse podcast brought to you by CATS Consultants. Hey, today we're going to talk about the chiropractic bell curve. I'm Dr. Michael Perusich. I'm one of your hosts. I'm joined in the studio today with my co-host, Marisa Mateja, who
Hello,
is
hello.
we call her the CA Ninja, one of the brightest minds in the profession. So anyway, let's talk about this crazy thing called the chiropractic bell curve. We've talked
Yeah,
about this for years, but doctors don't realize this, but everything we do on a daily basis affects ultimately the value of our practice, right?
absolutely. Yeah. And that's one of those things that I feel like a lot of docs miss or they don't realize is even happening to their practice along the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't realize it's happening. You don't realize that there's all these things that play into the value of your practice. And the crazy thing is, we control the shape of the curve of the value in our practice. And if we do the right things, we can push that, and I'll explain what I'm talking about here in a second, but we can explain that or push out that drop in value down the road if we're really intentional about the things that we're doing. But the traditional bell curve is this very sharp, steep upward in value, usually in the first 10 to 15 years of practice. And then we hit this point where we just kind of stay at that point for a while. And
Mhm.
then about 15 to 20 to 25 years, somewhere in there, it really starts to tip. And as it tips down, it can tip down pretty hard. And a lot of doctors find that when they're ready to retire, there's no value left in their practice. And Marisa, we see this all the time.
We do. And there's things that you can do to counterbalance that.
Right.
If you're really paying attention to where your value is. And, a lot of things that we do with our docs is making sure that they know where the value is along the way so that they can see how it's progressing so that
Right.
we don't hit that point and you do the panic button. It's really paying attention along the way to that process and where you're at,
Right.
where your value is sustaining or not sustaining.
Right. And you and I both have been around all kinds of businesses over
Yeah.
over our long careers. I'm not going to say how long. Um, but we see this in all businesses, but chiropractic, and it may not just be chiropractic, it's probably all doctors. We're so
Yes.
busy seeing patients and trying to manage that side of the business that we don't do some very important statistical and financial things within our businesses to really shore up that value. One thing is, how many of you put the value of your practice on your balance sheet?
Mhm.
It's part of your net worth. It should be on your balance sheet. But I talk to doctors all the time who look at me like I've got three eyes and a mole on my head.
Right.
They think I'm crazy. What do you mean put the value of my practice? We don't value it till we're ready to sell it. No, we value practices for our clients every single year and show them how to measure the value of the practice because that's what widens that bell curve. You're still going to reach a point where, and I'm going to tell one of our secrets here, one of our consulting secrets, but everybody's going to reach a point where the value tips over and starts to go down. That's normal. That's
Yeah.
kind of normal in any business. The trick is to not only know how to expand that curve out so it doesn't tip, but how to do it in a way that you don't work yourself to death in that time period when you want to or need to slow down just a little bit. I mean, let's face it, as chiropractors, it's a physical job.
It's demanding. It
Yes,
is a very physically demanding job. And unfortunately, we see a lot of our docs breaking down physically
right,
with things, and so you have to protect yourself
right.
as well as your business as you're moving into that other
So
side
true.
of that curve.
So true. And so you've got to find a place where you can slow down a little bit, but you slow down in a smart way that you don't lose the value of your practice. You don't give up revenue and those kind of things. And so we're always teaching doctors how to implement these kind of strategies into their practice. It's a very entrepreneurial way of thinking,
Yeah, it's
and
very business minded,
it's
and
very
I think
business minded.
I think that's one thing that sets us apart just a little bit is that that's one thing that we are. We are very business minded. It's not just chiropractic, it's really understanding how business in general works.
Right. Right. So all of you out there that are listening, and by the way, we appreciate you subscribing and listening to our podcast every week, the rantings and ravings of, um, I implore all of you to, whether it's us helping you or somebody helping you, figure out what the value of your practice is as soon as possible, and track that value at least every year, because understanding what your value is in your practice is also telling you a lot about how well your practice is doing over time. And
Yeah.
if you can keep that value up, especially after about the 10-year mark, if you can keep that value up on a steady basis, and I'm not saying it has to always grow, but if you
Right.
can just keep it up and profitable, then you're really going to have a great practice to someday probably sell. Because I know for most of us, that value of that practice, you want to pull that value out. It's just like your house. At some point, you're probably going to sell your house. So you want it to have good value. So what do? We take care of it.
That's right. You
So
reinvest in it.
you reinvest in it so that when you get to the point that you want to sell it for whatever that reason is, it's got great value, and that value comes back to you. So that investment that you put back into your practice should come back out in increased value.
Yeah, and we've got 3 or 4 different ways that we can figure value so that we can do some good comparisons and make sure that all the models line up with your practice. This isn't just a here's what you do. We really spend the time to make sure that you get the right value on your practice. So there's several ways that you can figure that, and we work through several different ways with our clients. Now, if you're not a client, we do have an option for a one-time package to actually help us work with you to figure that value.
Right. We do. We do. But if you are a client in our mastermind program, we have our legacy exit strategy program that we do about once a year or so. In fact, we have it coming up in our doctor's retreat here in a few weeks. But that program is where we really roll up our sleeves and really dive into those numbers, and you see what goes into not only building the value of your practice, but you see what goes into developing an exit strategy, which if you're in practice, I don't care if you're in your first year or your 40th year, you should have an exit strategy in place. And that exit strategy is kind of like your business plan. It evolves over time and changes over time, but there should always be one in place. And again, that's another whole podcast, because there's so many things that go into just even building the exit strategy.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time with docs helping them figure that out as well. There's several different ways to get out of practice, but doing it the right way where the value of what you're selling is high and you're getting the most out of that practice. For most of you, this is your retirement plan,
Right.
So you want to make sure that you've got good strategies in place to maximize that retirement time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know for a lot of us, in those first 10, 15 years, you're not really thinking about that. You're just head down. Let's see more patients. Let's bring more and more new patients and those kind of things. And you're valuing your practice based on a lot of times what's in your checking account. And y'all, I'm going to tell you, that's not the value of your practice.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a bad habit to get into for sure. That's not the best way to look at the profitability of your practice.
That's right.
And that's a different podcast as well.
It is. So we came up with so many podcast ideas. So anyway, that's the chiropractic bell curve of practice. Understanding the value of your practice and what goes into maintaining that value is incredibly important. So, hey, Marisa, tell everybody, if they go to katzconsultants.com, which if you haven't figured out, that's our website, katzconsultants.com. What's on there? What are they going to find?
So a couple different things. Obviously, you're going to learn about our different programs. We've got several different programs out there right now, one for students, one for the docs that don't feel like they need the one-on-one consulting. So it gives you access in a subscription-based form to having the knowledge base, to having the video libraries, those kind of things, all the new classes that come out. We put out 8 new classes every single month, plus updating forms or changing forms or adding forms and those kind of things. So all of that's included in the subscription. As well as our big program, which is our mastermind program that gives you access to not only CA certification, CA training, one-on-one CA training with myself. Then you have the doctor side, which is the one-on-one consulting as well, plus all of the stuff that's in the subscription program and student program. So it's kind of the all-inclusive, if you will. But right at the top, if you look, you'll find our phone number. You're welcome to give us a call. I'll be happy to chat with anybody. And then as well, you'll find some links to Let's Chat. I mean, you're welcome to set up a video call or a phone call with us at a time that works good for you. We're happy to visit with you at any time. So
awesome.
Lots of information about our events and those kind of things as well. So there's also some great downloads and free resources. So make sure you check out the blog page and check out the free resources. We've got a great new video out right now, the Chiropractic Economist. So please check that out. It's free for you to watch. Free information is always good, right?
It's a game changer too. That video is. So very good. Well, everybody go check us out at katzconsultants.com. See what we do. We are doctors. We understand your pain points. We have practices too, so we get it. So plug in. Let's see if we can help you, and check out all the interesting things that we offer for those of you that are serious about your success. All right, everybody. Marisa, thanks for being on here today. Thanks for listening to the KC CHIROpulse podcast, brought to you by Katz Consultants, helping doctors keep their pulse on success. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.